Let's now go back to our top story, where India and Malaysia have elevated their ties after 10 years of them being at one level. They've been made comprehensive. A lot of key pacts have also been inked between India and Malaysia during the Malaysian Prime Minister's state visit to India. It's a 3-day state visit, and to talk about it, we have with us Veena Sikri, former Indian High Commissioner to Malaysia. Good evening to you, Ms. Sikri. What do you make of this visit? Quite a few deliverables this time around.
Yes, I think it's a very important visit. I think, first of all, it's taking place after many years, and there have been some, misunderstandings and crisis situations between India and Malaysia in this year. So I think Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim deciding to come to Delhi at this time has been a very strong and positive indication of the moving ahead in the relationship. And we've seen that from the outcomes of the visit, and we've seen, for example, that not only the meetings he had, not only the discussions he had, but the outcomes. Now, I think I would like to say that number one, of course, the comprehensive strategic partnership. That's the next level of elevation. So we're going to attach the highest importance to the bilateral relationship. But let's look at the content of the outcomes. For example, I think that the chair of Indian Studies to be established at Malaya University is a significant outcome, because it's been a long time coming. We need this study of India to take place in Malaysia. We need the study of Malaysia and ASEAN to take place in India, so that the next generation understands what the relationship is all about. You cannot have CEOs and top businessmen investing in each other's countries until they've had an opportunity to study and to understand at during the course of their international relations and other studies about what's going on. So I attach the highest importance to this, because it's a long overdue event. I myself have written a book on India and Malaysia intertwined strands. And one of the responses to that book in Malaysia was there's so much we did not know about the bilateral relationship, the pre-colonial history, the post-colonial history. It's very interesting and important. But in addition to that, we have a lot of agreements on Ayurveda, for example. There's a lot of interest in Malaysia on India's traditional medicines. And now, again, at the university level, you're going to establish the study of Ayurveda. Now, this is important. You're looking always at the next generation. You're not looking at people who are now, let's say in their 50s and 60s, but you're looking at people who are today in university and who are interested in knowing what is going on in India. And we have a whole lot of other cooperation. We had the CEOs forum, which was held. So we're exploring, as you said, trade and investment is a very important part of the Malaysia-India bilateral relationship. I think among the issues that would have been discussed, let us see, one is that Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and Malaysia are interested in joining BRICS. And so they would have discussed about their interest with India. And certainly there's a lot of interest in many countries coming into BRICS. But India has a very specific point on how this expansion should happen, what should be the criteria, and what should be the numbers, and so on. So that's all being worked out. On the other hand, for us, in the next year, Malaysia is the next incoming chairman of ASEAN. Now, that's very important for India, but this is a very important aspect of India's Act East policy, that we want to work with the chairman, the ongoing chairman, and in next year is going to be Malaysia. We have a lot of interest in working individually with the ASEAN countries. We have bilateral relations, as you've seen, the Prime Minister of Malaysia is here, but we also want to work with ASEAN as a group. We want to understand each other, whether it's the Indo-Pacific, whether it is, multilateral trade engagements or FTA.
And the trade pact with the ASEAN is also under review, so that needs to be taken forward as well.
Yes. So, the MOU on defense cooperation is old now. It needs to be revived. It needs to be looked at. So there are many areas. And among the ASEAN countries, I think Malaysia is today taking more and more interest, playing a very big role. And we are very interested. Malaysia is interested in, the trade aspects of Quad, the maritime security aspects of Quad, because that for Malaysia, it's very important. They have a dispute with China on the South China Sea. So although Malaysia takes a very quiet perspective of that, unlike Philippines, which is now taking a very active perspective on that, on the South China Sea. So these are all the differences, but it's important for the future chairmanship for India's incoming interest. And we've seen the visuals you're showing of the CEOs forum, which is so significant because you've got to attract investments by Malaysia into India, and we've got to get our people to look at investments in Malaysia. Digital infrastructure is very important. That's another area on which agreement had been signed because Malaysia has been keenly following India's developments in the world of IT. They've created a Cyberjaya, next to Putrajaya, the capital of their country, which is the hub of their IT sector, and they want to develop that even further. And they feel that cooperation with India is very important for this. So,
Is that where the Migration and Mobility Pact also comes in? Because then there could be a lot of exchange in terms of highly skilled professionals and even entrepreneurs, because there's that bridge of startups to consider too.
Yes. This Migration Mobility Pact is very important because there's a lot of interest from people in India, from different sectors, from different states, to go and work in Malaysia. Malaysia is interested in inviting more and more people to work in Malaysia. But, we've seen that countries like, say, Bangladesh, they've had a very unfortunate experience with Malaysia in the question of these mobility pacts. And it's always overtaken by unscrupulous human traffickers, by unscrupulous agents and touts who, send individuals who then get stranded, whose passports are taken away. They don't have place to stay. They don't have money. It's a very, very difficult situation. So I'm glad that India and Malaysia have decided to go to put this on an even keel, to have an agreement on this subject, because otherwise, even between India and Malaysia, this was a very difficult area. And in Malaysia, we used to be besieged with people who had come to Malaysia illegally without telling anybody. And once they're there, they're stranded. They're at the mercy of the touts. And we used to do our best to help them, to rehabilitate them. And if nothing else worked, to get them sent back to India. And we should take it up with many agencies there and groups there. This was a big issue 2 decades ago. And today I'm very glad that India and Malaysia have decided to bring this on a proper keel, which can be a reference point for Indians wanting to work in Malaysia, and not having an ad hoc system that was there earlier. So this is very important because it brings in not only the Ministry of External Affairs, but Ministry of Labour and many other agencies in the state governments. There's a great need for coordination and making sure that there is no exploitation of any kind and fair. But there are a lot of jobs available in Malaysia for which a lot of Indians from different sectors and states are interested. So this is a very important area, and very important that we work on this professionally on a government-to-government basis, and making it easier for the private sector agencies to work together without exploiting of the individuals.
Okay.
So all in all, I think that it's a good visit that has taken place.
Right. And Ms. Sikri, the fact that now there will be a comprehensive partnership, it's been elevated to that level from enhanced. Does that have a direct connotation for the kind of defense cooperation that has been there so far between India and Malaysia? Because we have Hindustan Aeronautics Limited opening their office in Malaysia last year itself.
Yes, defense cooperation has been an area of great interest, and it's been an area of interest for a long time. But actually raising the bilateral relationship to comprehensive strategic relationship definitely gives more focus by each government on the different areas of cooperation, and allows, a greater interest and more intensive relationship to develop. Now, in the area of defense, certainly we need to work out more areas which are of mutual benefit and mutual interest, because this has always been a problem where Malaysia has an interest in some specific areas. Aircraft is one big. You mentioned about HAL, and that's certainly been a great step forward, the opening of the office there. And that would, provide the basis, because very often when you're looking at these areas like defense cooperation, you cannot depend on the routine G2G model, where one embassy is talking to that government and that embassy reports back to the government here. And that takes a very long time, and the dynamics are lost. Malaysia has also always participated in our air shows and has come to Bengaluru very often for the air shows at a very high level. So now when you have this comprehensive strategic partnership, you are going to, allow the public-private partnerships to work out. You're going to allow the PSUs, the public sector undertakings on both sides, to talk directly to each other. And you're going to increase the interest by Malaysian companies to come and invest in India. At one time, Malaysia was very active in India in the roads building sector, infrastructure development sector. And that over the years, because the bilateral relationship was not being so actively developed, that interest by Malaysian companies waned. But now I hope that with this visit by Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, he's been finance minister earlier. He's very interested in trade and investment, very interested in developing the economic and commercial links between India and Malaysia, and he's very interested in India and Indian history and civilization as such. So I think he's the right person to have come at this time, to have worked out these agreements, made it a comprehensive bilateral relationship. And I hope that with the degree of interest will now be more dynamic, and a lot of areas will come out.
Yes, from what I've heard and read, there's a lot of scope for JVs in infrastructure development as well as various projects of renewable energy. But let's also talk about the Indian diaspora there, because it's quite huge. I think the third largest that we have anywhere in the world. And how has that been contributing to ensuring that even in times of turbulence, India and Malaysia relationships have been on an even keel?
The Indian diaspora there is very large. As you said, it's one among the largest anywhere in the world. It's very active and dynamic. And some of the Indian diaspora has done very well. There is the Malaysian, the Malaysian Indian the party, and they have been active at high levels. They have ministerial posts. But I think I have always maintained that we have to do much more with the Indian diaspora. And I think the help they need a lot from India is in the level of education, because while the Indian diaspora is large and very interested in education, because many of them may be only Tamil speaking, and even their Malay language, if they've been living in plantations for decades, so their availability and ability to integrate and move upwards in Malaysian society becomes limited. And I think that we can do a lot by sending Tamil and English speaking teachers who could then even integrate more with the way these students can learn. And it's very important even to encourage the studies of Tamil language in Malaysia. There is an interest. There are people wanting to do it. We should do it at the university level as well, because the Indian diaspora must have their heritage with them. They must be able to develop their, and Tamil is a beautiful language, very ancient language, very beautiful language, very rich literature, ancient literature, among the most ancient and dynamic literatures anywhere in India. And I think there's a lot to be said for encouraging the study of Tamil literature and language in Malaysian universities, which will help the Indian diaspora and also help many people from the Malaysian Chinese and the Malay community to know more about India. So I very much hope that this new chair that has been set up will also include teaching of Tamil language and literature, and give a big boost to this interest, because we have to be very sensitive about the Indian diaspora. They have problems. They have problems of integration. They have problems of language,
Okay.
and they have problems where there's the discrimination of some kinds are there, which are built in. We also have to discuss all these very freely with them and with other agencies and take it up. I've always maintained that, because this is the only way to create a broader area of empathy and understanding between the two governments.
Okay, let's hope that work takes place on those accounts as well as this relationship goes forward in an elevated mode. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about it, Veena Sikri. Thank you.